Derek. Talk about how important Hank Marr was to yourself and Columbus.
Oh, well, let me just tell you from my standpoint, because my dad, Richie DiCenzo, was a sax player who knew all these guys in the Jazz Arts group. I got to see Hank Marr. I got to go to a party one time, Gene D'Angelo's house, and watch the Jazz Arts group play by the pool. And Hank Marr was just so charismatic and fun and great, of course, at jazz and piano. And it was thrilling. And I think of that a lot when I think about how important it is for us to play in front of kids, because maybe they remember that day that they saw a jazz band and thought it was the coolest thing ever, which happened to me. But then I ended up playing with Hank, and I learned quite a bit from him. Also because of my involvement at Ohio State as a student and as an instructor. And but Hank is a huge legend and Hammond organ legend, and a great arranger, and played the hippest left-hand voicings, and so, you know, huge influence on me.
Yeah. Bobby, many that know, that knew Hank and then, of course, fallen in love with your playing, would consider you right in the lineage of not only great B3 organ playing, but piano playing. Talk a little bit about what Hank meant to you and how you continue to carry the legacy of certainly the B3, but of Hank in general.
Oh, well, Hank, like you guys are saying, he was a great musician. I always thought Hank was like really underrated and didn't get quite the accolades and the attention that he deserved on a national basis, but he was right up there with the Jimmy Smiths and the Joey D's. So yeah, he was a great musician. I learned so much. I would go out to hear Hank play back in the day when he was playing the Anchor Inn and the Taj Mahal and different clubs. This is back in the 70s and 80s, and I just moved here, from Marion, Ohio. So I learned a lot from him. And not only was he a great musician, but he's a great person. Very big heart, very nice person, down to earth. Hank had every right to be big-headed and conceited, just based on the way he played, because he was a great musician, but he wasn't that way. He was a lot of fun, great to hear and great to hang out with.
Yeah. Chris, did you have a chance to get to know Hank? Did you get to play with him?
I didn't really get to know him. I got to play with him because he was still playing with the Columbus Jazz Orchestra when I first started playing with him. So about half the time Bobby was playing and the other half Hank was playing. So I probably played 2 or 3 concerts with Hank, and then he completely retired after that. And I also played a benefit concert for the Jazz Arts group. Bob Breihaupt played, and Hank played piano the whole time. And it's the one time I got to play with him in a kind of a small group setting at this.
Right. And Bob, I know that not only being the drummer in the CJO, but your years as the executive director coincided with a time when Hank passed, and obviously you were a major part of continuing his legacy. Just talk for a minute about what Hank meant to you.
Well, I mean, Hank was a mentor and a sort of a guiding light in a lot of ways. I mean, not only playing in the band, but also we played a fair amount together in a small group. I mean, Hank used to carry his own organ in the back of his in a trailer, and he would make sure that there were only a few people that would help him. Derek probably remembers this. Only a few people that he would allow to help him load his trailer with the organ, and I felt like I had crossed over the tracks when he deemed me able to help load his trailer with. He was meticulous about that. But a couple things about Hank that I think is important for people to understand. That not only was he a great performer, but he was a groundbreaking educator, and he was very, very adept. He's a really good arranger and a great conductor. He was one of the very few African American conductors because he was George Kirby's conductor, the comedian. There was Hank Marr, And George Rhodes, who was Sammy Davis Jr.'s conductor. Fortunately, I was able to work with him too, but certainly a lot with Hank. But the most important thing is the respect that a lot of people had for Hank, and unfortunately, he would share some stories about less than respectful individuals and musicians along the way, as you can imagine. When he was a conductor with George Kirby, going into Vegas, and here's the charts, and okay, who's the conductor? Well, really, who's the conductor? No, it's this guy, and so I don't have any direct knowledge about this, but Bobby, you may know, or Derek, other than George Rhodes and Hank Marr, were there any other and I suppose Quincy Jones, of course, but how many other notable African American conductors were there in the 60s and the early 70s? I don't really know.
The conductor for the New Jersey Philharmonic, the New Jersey Orchestra, I can't remember what it was. I went to hear them several times. He was African American. His last name was Lewis.
Yeah, so I mean,
that would have been in the late 60s.
So this is a small group of people, and fortunately, it aligned when Bobby Pierce left town. Hank had only been back in town on a full-time basis for a short time, and so right about 1982, Hank joined the band. There's a picture that was taken on the stage of Mays Hall back about 1982, where the picture of the band, and both Bobby Pierce and Hank are in that picture. So that was, we were very, I mean, if you really think about it, the three piano players that we've had in the Columbus Jazz Orchestra, Bobby Pierce, Hank Marr, and Bobby Floyd. Are you kidding?
Oof.
I mean, that's some heavyweight stuff there.
Well.